So here in projects list, we can also comment out all this code here, and also this watcher, which is related to searching, and also remove this function here, and instead import use search from hooks search.js. And now copy in that code which we used in user list. So where we call use search, but now I want to pass in a different value. Here it's not props users on which we want to filter, but instead it's props user projects. So let's pass this in. And we don't want to filter on the full name property on every user project, but instead on the title property. We can see this here in the original code, so we should feed this in. With that, we get the entered search term though, the available items, and the update search function. And we can now use this in the rest of the component. For example, here we're using available projects. That should now be available items. Here we're using entered search term and set a new value. Well, since we're getting the ref here, that should work. Assigning a new value here should work. It's a ref. We can update it from anywhere. Here, however, I now also want to return available items or still available projects so that I can keep using that name in the template. Here, for example. But I want to store available items in that available projects key. So I will not use this shorthand here, but instead store available items in this available projects property in this object we return to our template. And with that, yeah, I'm still importing a bunch of things which we're not using anymore. Let's maybe remove all the comments here so that this is a bit easier to see and to fix. Like this. And we're not using ref anymore. We got no other refs in here. We still got another computed property and a watcher. So we want to keep those imports. We also still use two refs, but we're not using the ref function anymore. So we can save that and get rid. And if I now reload, I get an error. Cannot read property projects of null. What could be causing this problem? Well, it's this line here. I'm passing in props.user.projects to use search. The problem with that is that we don't have a user selected initially. So initially, user is null, and I try to access projects on a null value. What could be workarounds here? Well, one workaround could simply be to create a new helper, variable, or constant, projects, for example, where I check if props.user is a thing. So if this is truthy, and if it is, I access props user projects and store that in projects. Otherwise, I store an empty array in projects. And then here I just pass in projects, which now is either an empty array if we have no user, or which is this value. Now this is looking better. However, now if I select different users, we always get no projects found. So it looks like there's something wrong with our code. And what could be the problem here now? Well, it's still related to those user projects. What did I say about props in the composition API module? I said that the props object is reactive, but the properties in there, the values nested in there, are not. Now what I'm doing here is when setup is executed for the first time, I'm pulling either the projects or this empty array. And that's it. Setup is not going to run again. If we select a user thereafter, this code is not going to run again. So projects will always stay this empty array. We need to react to user changing and update projects. And an easy way of doing that would be that we use a computed property here, take this code, and in the function inside of that computed property, we now return this code. By doing that, we ensure that computed, and therefore view, watches out for props, since it detects props as a dependency inside of that computed property. And whenever props change, and therefore the user here changes, whenever that happens, it will give us new projects. We can actually shorten this a bit. I'm already getting my user as a ref from props with this line down there. If we cut the line down there and actually move it up here, we can now just refer to user, which also ensures that this computed property is not re-evaluated whenever props change, but only when the user prop changes, which is a bit more efficient, though here it does not matter because we only have the user prop. Though that's also not entirely it. Keep in mind, user is a ref now, so we have to check user.value, and here also user.value. With that, however, it looks like it should work, but we'll introduce a subtle new issue. Projects now is a ref, right? Because it's a computed property, and computed properties are read-only refs. So I'm passing a ref to use search. In user list, we're doing something else. Here I'm passing in props.users, and as you know, the values inside of properties of your props object are not refs. So here, props users, the array I'm passing in, is not a ref. In projects list, what I pass in is a ref though. Now in search.js, I therefore sometimes get items which are a ref, and sometimes items which are just an array. Now I absolutely want the ref functionality here, because this computed property here should be re-evaluated when our items change. But of course, items.filter will not work if items is a ref. That should be items.value filter. And here it should be items.value. And here it should be items.value. But now, of course, we'll face problems when items is not a ref, like here in user list. There is a simple solution to this problem though. We can simply also use two refs here, like this, and pull out our users from two refs props. So the same approach I'm using in projects list, so that I can pass in users, which now is a ref, to use search. It's not required here technically, but with that we ensure that use search always receives a ref as its items and therefore will always work. And now you see we can switch between different users and see their projects. And searching here also seems to work. And if I switch the user again, that also looks good. Like this. So now we got this functionality working again. Now, however, with our own use search hook and therefore with reusable code. Yes, there were certain things we had to watch out for related to this ref reactivity thing, but after all, we were able to figure it out, and now we got flexible reusability thanks to this custom hook which we're using in two components.